You'll Remember Mercury by Candas Jane Dorsey. This story only ever appeared in a collection of the author's tales called Machine Sex and Other Stories in 1988. Read by Darrell T. Smith II for my channel, Quasar Spectra. You'll Remember Mercury. 1. You can rely on the computers. You can train your crew to competence. You can still take an accidental ellipse around a dark star and come out halfway across the span of space. You can't take a heart through the distance between souls without expecting a warp to transform it. Then the result is not clear. Then the understanding must be passed through the same course to give it the same polarization. Oh, you find this universe a strange place to live, my foreign and bewildered friend. 2. It is morning, and the ordinary sun is rising on the ordinary scene. The sharp shadows still lie long on the quiet town, my quiet room. You'd lie sprawled where you fell asleep, the sunlight's edge crossing your face severely, a right angle threatening your eye. I sit where I have sat the night, in the wooden rocking chair, unchanged except that with the dawn, the cat has come to warm my belly with its light sleep. I captured it, too, as I capture you, by feeding the organism. What you need? You amaze me by showing it, that I have something with which to feed you. You stir and reach out for your particular breakfast. 3. Captain Casey became conscious in the padded chair after a long, how long, time of stunned half-listening to the efforts of the machinery. So the pain that persisted in the inner ears no longer obscured the hearing. It was a first tentative command evaluation. Finally, sluggishly, she could turn her head to scan the cabin, where she should see the other crew members reaching for their switches, shaking blood from their ears. But they were all still unconscious, and she could not yet raise her hands to the release or to the computer link. Bart alone stirred, and his opening eyes met hers blankly. Slow comprehension turned his head to the screens, the one view she had not scanned, had not wished to, until someone else was awake to share the astonishment. The strange stars, and stranger, the long ship. The stranger. And we, like a couple of, yes, astonished rabbits, wide-eyed, watched this new and alien manifestation. She thought, and activated the computer link. The quiet voice added to the whispers. Bart was releasing the emergency restraints. How enviable the large, flat fingers, their athletic competence intact. Hers were still bandaged or tender with new scars. The voice says, "Scan tempo." It says, "Damage report." It says, "Am I directed to start cryonic procedures on damaged crew members?" Implacable. She turned away after her responses, releasing herself to wonder. The uncontrolled spin of the ship slowed and stabilized, and the pressure normalized. Still, the cameras on their gyros kept the view screen a stable field of disbelief, and the scene did not dissolve into the star map she expected to see. The alien vessel was closer, was closing, the hand reaching out for them. She and Bart were the only living beings now on her small, misdirected ship. The data flowed. The slingshot of an elliptical orbit around a star? A descent through some new black hole? Hellhole? How fortunate! she thought in passing, that we can represent the species, but not reproduce it, thinking of her incomplete fallopian tubes and Bart's spacer sterility. Methodically, she reported, launched the message capsule. She was not overly surprised to see its silver trajectory end in an orifice of the alien ship. She was startled, however, at its immediate reappearance and resumption of previous course. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Bart was smiling, but he could not talk. He had a strange, twisted smile now, the scar on his cheek still pink. She began to unwind the bandages from her hand. Their hold was tenacious, where the skin was yet too new to be safely exposed, but she had no leisure for healing now. They stripped to the skin in their noisy silence, pulled overalls from the lockers, and donned them. She contemplated ordering Bart to clean his lank hair, but at the last moment, it seemed, before her words, he followed her lead and dipped his head through the sanitizer. She pulled his hair gently together at the back, tied it with a scrap of tape. They had been in space a long time, she thought. He offered his hands to her hair, but she shook her head and bound it herself. She was still captain. Finally, the last step of the ritual. She punched the contact sequence out of the computer, sent it out in all modes. When the answer clicked through, the formulae, the square roots, the spectra of an alien sun, they were ready in their pressure suits, ready for whatever form the summons would take. 4. We're friendly. We're a bipedal, bisexual, intelligent life form capable of peace. Naturally, this capability presupposes certain indiscretions in our collective past. We do not mention these at first. We're bewildered. Please explain yourself to us. How did we arrive here? We do not know this quadrant. We're stripped to the skin again. Why bother with clean uniforms? We are examined. It is difficult to tell how. I am Captain Casey of the scout ship Emeritus. This formula occurs to me from some nostalgic impulse, and this is my go for broke. I'll give him a promotion. Alter in command. Nguyen Bart. They won't understand this. We're representatives of Earth, a planet of oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere circling a G-type star. Earth, or Terra, as it is more formally known. Would you like to buy the Brooklyn Bridge? If it's still there when we get back from wherever the hell we are. Is interested in establishing mutually beneficial friendships throughout the galaxy. This is our first contact with non-Terran life. You are our first lover. Be gentle. 5. Meanwhile, on Terra, I have sold you the Brooklyn Bridge, too, I think. Will you find out you're getting a placebo? But you seem to like it. You do not understand, you say gently when you feel that thought. You have exactly what I need. I look at my violin, as far away as Arcturus now, or as your dark star, whichever it may be. The cat is jealous and pushes its head under your hand. You were interested at first, but used it up very quickly. Still, it is what they call a dumb animal and doesn't know when to retire. I will know, I am sure, when the time comes. You are amused by my Brooklyn Bridge analogy. You tell me the story of how you thought that irrelevant thought while bravely doing your duty for home and planet. I have heard the story on numerous video reconstructions, but from you it sounds new, fresh. I realize foolishly, after the fact, that it should. You were there first. 6. After a long time of talking and trying to listen, although there is little to hear, Casey sensed a change in the audience. They were alone. Bart was still with her. She was fortunate. Food was being provided. She had tried to stress the human need for food and sleep and companionship. The latter had been an improvisation based on the growing strangeness. The food was from their ship, and so were the wide pallets. After a while, she and Bart shared one. He still could not talk, but she was appalled to discover that she now understood anything he wanted to say. He was supportive through the crisis of identity and belief. Her analytical mind realized such a crisis was bound to occur, which followed. She held him through his attack of fear, and eventually, inevitably, they made love. Throughout, she kept in mind that she was still nominally the captain. Her command status was not under question. However, this new and alien relationship caused everything else familiar to come into question. The data their reacting bodies were providing to the aliens was also a concern. Casey lay, later sat, awake long after Bart was dreaming. She was dreaming too, but she could no longer imagine an end to it all. Bart represented the familiar, but this new conjunction was infatuating, was amazing in its differences and similarities. Later, Bart awoke and tried to talk with her, but she was too tired to stay attentive. She gave him his orders: keep watch, make copious notes. On his cuff? She smiled. And do not allow yourself to be taken away from here without awakening me. She slept. 7. I am taller than you are. I am always surprised by that, by the way you fit your shoulder under my arm in such a confident way. You don't talk sometimes for hours, then seem startled when I speak. The months in the ship with your silent co-pilot, Alter, if you must promote him, has conditioned you to a certain reality. Even when you were removed from us altogether and changed, we still kept some of you, enough that your hunger is still real. You laugh at my conceit and stroke the cat in whom you have taken a new interest. You make the mistake, you say, of assuming that because I am not akin to you, I am one of them. Everyone else but me is one of a pervasive them. You make a mistake of thinking I need to know which kind you are. 8. She dreamed vividly about her career. She'd become a spacer very young, run away from home to become a cabin person, or the modern analog, worked her way up through the ranks, took what she could, but wasn't greedy, took whomsoever she could, with due attention to keeping her private life separate from her career, had, briefly, a husband and a wife who bore her a child, but the long absences took their toll on that, as on many Air Force marriages. Should be vacuum force now, she'd always thought. Had a citation for her part in a successful rescue operation behind Venus. Simple, really, except for the publicity. Bart she had promoted to co-pilot last trip, field commission, and yesterday, whenever, another in situ promotion to Alter. She had a good crew, now in cryonic suspense, waiting for the outcome of this encounter. She dreamed, finally, of the alien touch, the contact she had yearned to make, daydreamed through its predictable script to the rewards on Terra. But now was making contact with an entity who was not party to her fantasy screenplay, Like the effort required to keep a balance in her marriage, an effort of empathy was required of her. This time she was the sycophant, longing for a touch, for understanding, a role unsettling in its unfamiliarity. The longing, the touch, awakened her. She had curled in a half circle in her dreaming, one hand at her groin and the other across her face. The odor of the alien was sweet. Bart was gone. 9. She was jealous without believing herself. She wanted to be with them instead of him. It was her place. She stroked the scars on her hands, the burns where the hot metal had annealed a new surface. That was during the first malfunction. The second had catapulted them here. Have we been off course since the first? To bring us into some mysterious relationship with the power that was strong enough to throw us here? To bring us into this mysterious relationship? 10. You pick up my violin in your scarred hands, stroke its smooth, curved back. In your grasp, its shape seems tortured too. Why don't you play for me? You say, looking away from me into the varnished depths. I am brushing my hair. I know that if I can entice you to look at me, you may forget that I have not answered. I have no answer. You have all my answers. I have nourished you with them, yet you are still hungry. I believe you tried with Bart, but he speaks a silent tongue, a foreign one. You came back to Earth hungry, and we feed you, the small animal and I. 9. She came to meet them again, came to learn more of joy than she could hope to teach. It was difficult to understand what was said or feel what was done. She had to learn to rely on intuition, a difficult lesson. She was seldom able to be with them without Bart's presence, his chatter, his continual questions. He would never speak again, but this was never an impediment to understanding what he had to say. He apparently did not share her awareness, however, nor her perception. Each of them tried explorations of the vessel, but each found a different landscape. They had, finally, no basis for dialogue at all. He obeyed her when necessary. She was preoccupied. He explored his own peculiar euphoria. She grew into her own understanding. They were, returned to their ship and given a course for home. Little attention was paid by their mentors to detail, but they were still able to reach Earth without a serious lapse of health or welfare. 2 of the crew in cryonic suspension deteriorated beyond saving, however. She mourned their accelerated deaths. 12. We are your people. We return with news of a new race. Will you race to meet them? We're tired from a long journey through uncharted space. We have come home. What is this room? These questions? What more can I say? Home is where our hearts are, but, my heart, you are strangers to me now. No one of you less than alien. There is no more certainty here, less than in the alien ship. So many risks we took to come home, to find what we called home, one among the many dark stars. 13. I watch you as I have watched since first I saw you. You sleep now, so I cannot learn anything new about your alien tastes. You are a lonely woman, and so am I. We feed each other with the words, the actions that succor us through the long days. My violin is in my lap, but I cannot yet play. You are too far from me on the long ellipse of night. Your course curves around the dark star of your solitude, and you will slingshot back again and again to enter into orbit around the home of your desires. You have been parsecs further in real space than I, but you cannot lessen the distance between souls, though your heart wants to rest from its journeys. You've been listening to pre-1990s speculative fiction readings with a highlight on science fiction by Darrell T. Smith II. Please consider clicking the donation link in the description box. Thank you so much for your time and your imagination.